guys, Work here. Welcome back to Work the Trigger. Today we've got the new hotness from Walther, the PDP. Let's get to work. So Walther has now come out with their essentially next generation of personal defense pistols, and that is the PDP line. It comes in what I've got here, the compact with the 4-inch barrel. It also comes in a full size of the 4-inch barrel and a full size of the 4.5-inch barrel. Now, before we get too much into the range here, let's head over to the bench really quick so I can give you a rundown of what you're getting. All right, guys, so I wanted to give you a little bit of a view on the PDP here before we took our shots through it. So this is as it comes. I wanted to open this up, give you guys a look at what you get. First of all, Walther, kudos on the gun case here. This thing is, I mean, this is big. I don't have big hands, but you can see the difference there. But this is a really good sized case, significantly larger than the majority of cases that you get from other pistol companies. Glock, CZ, they're all going to be smaller pistol cases than this. So let's go ahead and open this guy up, take a look at what we've got inside. So of course we've got our, this is instructions for installing optics plates not included with the gun here. Here we've got the, of course, lock, and that's the bag that it came in. I've already played with it a little bit. So here's what we've got with the gun itself. We've got the gun, 2 magazines, a loader, we've got back straps here, and we've got an Allen key and a disassembly tool here. First of all, kudos again to Walther for their case, because as you notice here, there is a cutout for the optic. That's not something you get in the majority of cases. If you try to stuff an optic on a P10 or a Glock or something along those lines, you're going to have a hard time getting it in there. They don't have the cutout usually. The back straps are actually rubber. I don't know if you can tell that those are bending, but they are. And they are very nice. The large here does have a portion that comes up the back of the beaver tail. This one is the small. I've got the medium one on here right now. Again, 2 magazines. This is the compact, so we've got 15 round magazines and their little speed loader thing, all basically the same as Glock's got. We go ahead and grab the gun out here. All right, so taking a look at the gun itself, it is extremely nice. It is very reminiscent of the PPQ. We'll talk about some of these upgrades, and I'll give you a little bit more about how they function when we're shooting it, but the slide has been modified. It's called what they're calling the super terrain serrations. These are exceedingly deep serrations. They are nice and sharp. It's the kind of newer wide set trend that a lot of companies have been going with, kind of like the Beretta APX, but they did it right here. The APX serrations were rounded. These are not. These are relatively sharp, and they are forward facing, so as you pull back, your hand is getting pulled down into the slide as you pull that back. It has a performance duty trigger. Not sure what that means versus the normal one. It's okay. Again, we'll go over this a little bit more in firing. I haven't shot this thing yet, but it is a 2-pound take up, a 4-pound pulse. So once you get that take up out, you've got another 2 pounds additional weight to be able to hit that brake, making it a 4-pound overall pull. The reset is wimpy at best. It leaves something to be wanted. It's about a 3/16 of an inch reset, and you're right back on that wall. So the wall is nice. It's a little bit squishy. You can feel a little bit of about 1/8 of an inch of creep in there before you really hit that wall and it breaks. Again, it's a nice trigger. It is better than most striker fire triggers out there. I would put this slightly under the Canik TP9 trigger. Oddly enough, it's a really hard comparison to make because, as I said in my review of the TP9, there's something about it that just feels on the cheaper side. The Walther here doesn't have that problem, but the trigger isn't as good. But the quality of the firearm kind of lies to you a little bit. It makes the trigger feel almost as good in this as the Canik trigger is, but without being as good. The Canik reset is better, the pull is better, the brake is more crisp, but the Walther trigger just feels like the internal components are made of a little bit higher quality material, especially the trigger and the trigger face itself. The way it pivots, where the pressure is going on the actual face itself, it just feels a little bit higher quality, but it is not as good a trigger, so it's kind of a confusing conglomeration of feelings there. The magazine release is kind of shrouded behind this really weird choice of frame raise right here, making it so that it digs a little bit into the bottom of your firing hand when you're holding, and then if you pinch too much, you can actually pinch your finger on it. It doesn't keep you from getting to the magazine release at all, which is nice. The magazine release is in a good spot, placed a little bit further back on the frame than a lot of guns that have it like right up here in the crux of the trigger guard. Makes it easier to get to with your firing hand, and that is reversible. We do have ambidextrous controls here as far as the slide stop slide release goes. Moving back from that, we've got this super deep beaver tail. It allows you to get a nice high grip without running the risk of slide bite. I get slide bite on a lot of guns that don't have that deeper beaver tail, so it's nice to get that curvature in there. Down a little bit from that is the grip texturing. This is one of the grip in general is one of the major improvements that I think versus the PPQ. The grip shape and the texturing is just more universally comfortable. I've told a couple of people this. I think that the change from the PPQ to the PDP is very similar to the change from the Glock Gen 4 to the Glock Gen 5, just without the increased accuracy of the new barrel. It will more universally appease. Whether it's worthwhile for somebody with a PPQ to update to a PDP, I don't know. But when you go into a store, you put a PPQ and a PDP both on the counter, I think people are going to gravitate to the PDP. The grip texturing here it's relatively aggressive. I enjoy it. I really like aggressive grip texturing, but I can see how it would be off-putting to some people. It's very akin to the grip texturing on like an RTF2 Glock. Very small sections of rather aggressive grip, which I like. Moving back up a little bit, again, it is optics ready. The optic cover here is plastic. That doesn't bother me a whole lot. It probably won't stay on the gun too long. They did chamfer down here below it, which looks a little weird with that plate on there, but once you put an optic on, it'll make a little bit more sense. The sights. Oh, the sights. The sights are actually Glock cut sights. I'm pretty sure the front is steel. I can't 100% tell. The back seems to be polymer. It is adjustable for both windage and elevation, which on a carry gun, I don't like. I want a fixed rear on a carry gun. And it does have a crappy ass 3-dot sight setup. 3-dot sights are the greatest farce in the firearms industry, and thus guns just shouldn't have that on there. So that's the overview of the Compact PDP. Let's go out to the range, take some shots, and I'll let you know what I think then. So now that you've seen it, let's take some shots through this thing. These are my first shots through this. It is Indiana cold out here. I'm just now realizing I should have worn a heavier jacket, but I didn't. But let's get some shots through the PDP, and I'll give you an idea of what I'm thinking. These are, again, my first shots. This is directly out of the box. I've done nothing to this gun. So far, so good. It didn't just fire randomly, so that's good. All right, let's go ahead and take some shots. Okay, so that's our first mag through the PDP here. A couple of thoughts on it. The grip texturing on this thing is really nice. Like, really nice. As I said in the tabletop, it's a very aggressive grip texturing. You can feel it. It's very similar to a Glock RTF2 in how it digs into your hand. That being said, I like this more. It's not going to grab onto clothing like the RTF2 did. The RTF2 was almost like a really rough stipple job where it would grab onto clothing. The PDP is not going to do that. It's a nice job, but it is very aggressive. You're gonna feel it, and you feel it when you're firing. You feel it holding the firearm in your hand. Recoil impulse is about what you'd expect. It's not a great recoil impulse, but it's also not a bad one. I would say it's a little bit lighter than the Canik TP9, but it's not as light as like a Glock. Glocks are, in the world of like polymer pistols, they actually shoot pretty well. The PDP here is, the frame design and stuff of it actually comes from the Q4 and Q5 SF. That's where the stippling comes from, that's where the frame shape comes from. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of kind of where they're coming from with this thing. Let's go ahead and do another mag through this thing. and feel the trigger out a little bit on this. The trigger is, there we go. The trigger is an interesting trigger. It is not, it is a good striker fire trigger, but I don't think it's as nice as the PPQ trigger. They call it the performance duty trigger, which to me says that it's the performance trigger out of like the Q4 or the Q5, but with a more like duty profile maybe. I don't know really. Fire's okay when you're firing relatively quickly, but let's get some more shots through it, and we'll go through a little bit more then. Okay, so the reset in this trigger is very minimal. I'm going to switch sides so you guys can kind of see the trigger movement here. So here's the overall trigger profile. You've got about a 2-pound long-ish take-up. It's about 3/8 of an inch take-up. And then you hit the wall. The wall's a little bit of squish. You got about 1/8 of an inch of travel. And that 1/8 of an inch of last travel is about another 2 pounds. So overall, you've got a 4-pound trigger here. The brake is nice and crisp. Not a lot of over travel after the brake. Now the reset is that same relatively nice short reset. You're right back on the wall. The reset is springy, so it kind of pushes your finger out a little bit further than the reset. Means that you're not gonna really short stroke it a whole lot, but that reset is spongy at best. It is not very audible, semi-tactile. But if you're a fan of like those Glock triggers with like the super clean resets, then the PDP trigger's not gonna impress you too much. Let me get a couple of magazines loaded, we'll do some more rounds, we'll do a little bit of accuracy and see how that goes. Okay, so we're all loaded back up here. Now let's go ahead and take some headshots. We'll see how accurate this thing is before we're doing something we probably shouldn't do. Okay, so, yeah, that's all me. I've not shot in about a month. If I did my job right, it would be significantly more accurate than it is. I just haven't shot in a while, guys. So now a couple of things that I've noticed after firing. So, very similar to the way that the Legion did it. Walther's got this really weird shape back here on the back strap. It's very squared off. And you feel it a lot, especially my hands, again, are like on the smaller mid-size. And so you can see here, my knuckle actually rides right on that. So for smaller hands, you feel that. It's not been uncomfortable yet, but I've only shot like 45 rounds through the thing. But I do feel it. The grip texturing, again, is fantastic. These serrations... The serrations are really nice. It's cold out here. It's not really cold out here. It's like 40. But I even with my going numb fingers, I can still grab the slide really well with these. The sights, I hate the sights. I hate 3-dot sights. I don't like fully adjustable sights either on a carry gun. I don't know why they do that with this. It should have fixed sights, but these are Glock sight cuts, which means it should be pretty easy to swap out. Okay, so now to do something that we probably shouldn't do with a brand new gun. But you know what? Screw it. Oh. Oh. That is a, it's an interesting Walther there. Let's go ahead and take some shots and just make sure it works, because honestly, that's probably one of the more realistic things that you're going to see guns be actually put through. So, hey, it still shoots. Let's, screw it. Do it again. I feel really bad doing this, but at the same time, I totally understand how Tim kind of gets off on this. I mean, I didn't say that. Well, it works, and I'm wet. Let's load up just a couple more mags and go ahead and send it through, and I'll give you some last thoughts on the PDP here. Okay guys, so apparently I decided that one more drop in the snow slide open was a good idea. I'm not so sure about that one, but it happened, so. Now see that? There we go. That's the second time it's done that. When I went to slingshot it, it didn't go home. And feel the trigger out a little bit on this. The trigger is, there we go. I noticed too with the magazine out and you go to do that, you've got to actually drop the slide. So that's just an interesting little tidbit there for you. All right, well, it works. So that is the PDP, Walther's new entry. As I said, this thing is kind of akin to like a Gen 4 to a Gen 5 Glock, going from the PPQ to this. It's a similar, reliable gun. It's solid. My fingers are freezing. I can't feel them anymore, but it works. It's mostly comfortable. I'll get back to you on this little back ledge thing. A couple other little things about it that I did notice. It's got this ribbing here. It doesn't really stop you from getting the magazine release, actually. Its magazine release is placed really nicely, but you feel it with your fingers if my fingers weren't numb. That, and on the bottom of it, look at this. I don't know if you can see that. I'll try to roll some B-roll of that. But do you see that spot right there? It's where there was a mold fill point, but it looks like they went at it with a freaking Dremel, honestly, which for a $650 gun, that's what I paid for this, plus shipping, plus tax, all that good stuff. For that, I don't feel like they should have taken a Dremel to it. So anyway, keep an eye out on the channel. We will be continuing to shoot this. Eventually, I'll get a dot on it. I've got a couple of spares. I just wanted to give you guys a first look at it as it sits from the factory. I'll probably end up carrying it once we get a holster made for this. And I'll definitely let you guys know when we get a singleton made for this thing. Overall, so far, I like the gun. I don't know if I like $650 like the gun, but it is a good gun. It feels high quality. There's just little maybe nitpicky things about it, but it works and it's accurate and it looks really nice. So well done on the looks, Walther. Remember guys, if you found this video useful, go ahead and like and subscribe down below. If you're interested in keeping up to date with our PDP testing, hit that notification bell. If you like what we do here on the channel, head over to workthetrigger.com. Over there, you're gonna find affiliate codes, discount codes. You'll find links to all the people that we work with and our apparel. I'm rocking some today. I got the Hollerson stuff on. So head over to there. I don't want you guys spending money just on Patreon and just giving me money, but if you're planning on buying something anyway, head over to Work the Trigger and see if we've got a link for you. Thanks again, guys. Remember, I appreciate every one of you, and until next time, do your research, get informed, and get to work.